Welcome back. I'm Ryan,
I'm Ruben.
and this is,
Ruben and Ryan. Is it Ryan or Ruben?
I think, Ruben and Ryan. I think that's what we decided.
Still new, but we're getting
I
there.
like it.
Alphabetical.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Ruben and Ryan, but so close. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Can't really get much closer. Unless your name was like Revelvu. So we're actually talking today about preparing for college football. All right. So if you're a high school player and you're interested in knowing what college coaches are looking for and how to increase your chances of success at getting recruited and ending up at the school you want, that's what we're talking about.
Specifically for wideouts and
Linebackers.
yeah.
Yep. So we're gonna a lot of this will apply to all players, but specifically we're gonna talk about the things you can do at your position if you're a receiver or a linebacker, either over the next 4 years if you're going into your freshman year, or even in the next few months if you're a senior, to maximize your chances. So let's get started with that. First thing I want to know is we actually have a college player whose name is Nighthawk. We don't know his real name. We just know him as Nighthawk, but he is a big time player, and he'll be able to shed some light on this too. So we're gonna lean on him a little bit. He'll be off camera, but he'll answer. Ruben, what you got?
Yeah. So for me, and thinking back to my experience, I played D3 ball. Obviously wanted to play at the highest level, but I went where I was wanted and where I could get some money. So I think first off, it's for a lot of high school guys, it's realizing not everyone is going to get the Alabama, Ole Miss, Kentucky, whatever offer. Of course, you strive for that, but the reality is everyone isn't that caliber player.
And the
But
other reality is
yeah.
not everyone who gets that offer should accept it.
Yeah.
Right? Because one of the major considerations in choosing a school is, do you want to be a big fish in a little pond, or do you want to be the little fish in a big pond? And there's no right answer. You know, I chose to be a big fish in a little pond. Of course, I didn't know it was going to be a big fish. I was just going to a little pond. But like you, I had limited choices. I wanted to play at Florida State or Miami or Florida. And I did get interest from the University of Florida as a fullback, but they didn't really use the fullback. So that would have been the most impressive school that I could have gone to based on my high school career. But I chose not to because I knew I wasn't their first choice, especially not at the position I wanted to play.
Yeah.
So those are considerations that you really have to make. And then, of course, 99% of these guys aren't going to the NFL.
Yeah.
So you also got to think about your future in terms of, is the school that you're going to, does it match your interests, your competencies? Is it in the right geographic location for what you're able to get through? Like, I could never have gone to a school up north.
Yeah.
I would have froze.
Yeah, I didn't apply any schools above Kentucky.
Yeah. So there's a lot of considerations, but regardless of where you decide to go, there are things that college coaches are looking for, right? So let's get into that a little bit. For receivers, right? I'm guessing obviously speed has a lot to do with it. Probably height has a lot to do with it. How much of a player's high school career on tape actually goes into the final decision making for who's going to be offered scholarships versus, say, physical measurables?
Yeah. So from what I've seen and what I've experienced, just being a coach and coaching some guys that are playing D1 football now, D2 football, D3 football now, the biggest season that I've noticed is the junior season.
Yeah.
Because that's usually when the offers start rolling in, either before or after the season. So might even some sophomore tape potentially too if you're playing as a sophomore. But I think, like you said, the things that they're looking for, obviously speed is one. But I think one that is not overlooked or not thought about often is just playmaking ability and your explosiveness. So, like, can you take a screen 80 yards? Can you, go up and high point somebody? Kind of those things. If you can't do those things, you can't play at the highest level.
So
like,
playmakers.
I think that's one. And then two is, let's say there's a coach debating between both two guys that are playmakers. The next thing they're looking at is, obviously, let's say they have the measurables too. Let's say they both have the measurables. They both have the speed. Take it off the table. Both playmakers. The next thing I think they're looking at is who runs the best intermediate to short routes. Can you get in and out of breaks? Can you run the route tree? Are you efficient? Are you consistent? And obviously, like catching the ball is the main thing. So like
Right.
that's a given. But I think it's that next tier is like, do you want a guy that can just run post goes, or do you want a guy that can catch the ball over the middle, can run the dig, can run the comeback, can
So being a complete receiver is probably more important than just being great at one aspect.
yeah.
Okay.
When it comes down to it,
Right.
Like if they're debating between
All things equal.
yeah, do we offer this guy or this guy? That's our last spot. Which wideout do we want?
So let me ask you this: are they taking the guy that's 6'2" that runs a 4.4, that maybe only caught 10 balls in his senior year in high school, or are they taking the kid who's 5'8" and runs a 4.6 but caught 85 balls his senior year? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What level school?
You think it depends?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. So I would say, like, let's just start with the highest levels, right? Well, a kid who's 5'8" who runs a 4.6 is probably not getting a lot of D1 offers, right? So maybe let's think of it as sort of a mid tier or like even D2. Does it depend on the school or the recruiter or the coach himself, or do most people prefer a finished product over a project?
I think if you have the potential, you put on tape that you can make plays. You've got some attributes. I think it's a little bit easier to work with, but I do think coaches are looking for guys that they can come in and maybe mold a little bit, maybe not take as much time, but depending on what they need. Like if they need to add, 2 wideouts and like they're probably gonna play. Like they don't want to take, they'll take the guy that they think can play, and that fits the scheme, fits the school, all other stuff that comes into play. But I think it just depends on the coach and depends on school, what type of offense they're running, what they have on the roster already. So I just tell guys, I mean, you might want to go to Duke or Florida, but if they already got 20 guys in the room, they can say a lot, but they've got 20 guys in the room. It's like,
Yep.
you got to compete against 19 other guys.
No question.
To get on the field.
And to that point, what we were talking about a minute ago, this whole transfer portal has complicated things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's made it worse or better. I mean, certainly for the top tier football programs, it's great because they continue to get their choice, not only of high school players, but of guys who already have experience in college, and in some cases a lot of success in college. Right? Who was the Alabama quarterback a couple years ago that transferred? Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Where did he transfer to? Oklahoma. And he did well, I guess.
Started for the Eagles. Now he's like 7-0,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, he's doing great. Yeah, now. But I mean, here's a guy that won, or was at least up for the Heisman his junior year, and then gets hurt, and then Tua comes in. Right? Is that how that went?
Something like that.
Yeah. And then Tua was like stellar, right? And so high level guys that get squeezed out of top programs are going to end up at the schools that a lot of the really top tier high school kids are planning on trying to get to, which may bump them all down to the next tier.
Yeah.
So is that discouraging for high school kids? Should they be discouraged by that, or is that just the lay of the land and we got to deal with it?
I'm talking about earlier. I think it's just more of a reality check that, I mean, a lot of this college football is a business. Like coaches are trying to keep their jobs, and for the bigger schools, they're trying to ticket sales and all that type of stuff, TV deals and all that. So,
well, let's be clear.
Yeah.
A high school coach's job is to win games.
Yeah.
Right. A high school coach's job is to win games, but a high school coach also has the responsibility of character molding and of safety and they have to wear a lot of hats. College coaches, one more level up, are going to care just a little bit less about fairness and things like playing time or academics, except as it applies to their eligibility.
Yeah.
And then you get to the next level, NFL, and yeah, of course there are coaches that care about players, 100%, but their job is to win games. And so you've got to understand that fair has nothing to do with it, right? So nobody's going to consider all of the hard work you've put in if it's not showing paid off. Yeah. All they're going to say is, do we have a better chance to win with this guy or this guy? That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I think I get the sense that most schools, except for like ones that tend to pride themselves very primarily on character and academics, most schools are going to take the better player, even if he's got troubles.
Yeah.
I personally think that's a mistake. I think that high character tends to play out over the course of a college career more favorably than athleticism, all things equal. But, because you see this all the time. You guys have all played with guys who are incredible athletes. I mean, the best athletes I've ever played with never saw the field. And it's not because necessarily that they didn't try hard, although that was the case a lot of the time. But it might just be that they don't have that factor, right? Like what you talked about, playmaking. How are your yards after catch? Like, do you go down as soon as somebody touches you? If you catch a ball at 8 yards, does that mean you're getting tackled at 8 yards? Or can you get us the first down that's at 12,
Yeah.
And to me, that's way more important. But I'll tell you, even at the professional level, this used to drive me crazy. It still does. They value your potential, right? A little too much, more than your actual
What you're doing
production,
right now.
right?
Yeah. So on that, I mean, you played the highest level, played NFL. Thinking back to your high school, which was, I mean, it was not too long ago, but it was a while ago. What are coaches looking for linebackers?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I actually think there's two different things here. I think there's outside linebackers and there's inside linebackers. Yeah. And when I say outside linebacker, I don't mean a 4-3 outside linebacker. I'm talking about the rush guys.
Yeah.
So I think what coaches are looking for rush guys, rush outside backers in a 3-4, like, I'm just going to be totally honest, and I could be wrong, but from talking and being around it all the time, I think they're looking for freak athletes as an outside backer. They're looking for projects as an outside backer. Now, most kids that are freak athletes in high school are also really good players in high school, right? It's not really until the next level where there's differentiation in skill, because they're so much more talented that they don't have to be that skilled, right? So you get a guy like Junior, for example, Junior Colson, who he's 6'3", 225 in high school and runs a 4.440. That guy's a freak. So he's getting looked. I mean, he could have won anywhere he wanted.
Yeah.
But the reason he's successful right now at Michigan isn't because he's a freak. It's because he's doing all the other right things.
Intangibles.
There's so many guys that go to college football 6'3", 220, 230 that run 4.4s. There's a ton of them. You never see most of them because they don't pan out.
Yeah.
But a guy like Junior, who has always done the little things well too, and is very high character, and has good academics. I mean, look, if I could give everybody one piece of advice, it would be great at everything, right? But that's not practical for a lot of people.
Something to add on that too.
Yeah.
Junior used to be in my position group as
Yeah.
a sophomore. He wanted to be a wide out.
I think that's a really important
talk
point.
about that.
Yeah, I think that's an extremely important point.
Yeah.
Don't get married to your position.
Yeah.
Because you may not fancy yourself a linebacker if you're a receiver, or vice versa, but it's far better in the long term to choose a position where there's opportunity and competence.
Yeah.
In Junior's case, Junior was an outstanding athlete. We had a whole slew of good receivers. We just didn't need him as a team as a receiver, and he wasn't polished yet as a receiver. So they said
I might add, he would have been.
he will. Oh no question. I actually think
Yeah.
my personal opinion is Junior could have played about 6 different positions
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I think he could have been the best running back in the state. I think he could have been a very good receiver. He could have been a tight end. He could have been a safety, a linebacker, or a defensive end. No problem.
Yeah.
But so he's very lucky, right? That's different.
Yeah.
Like in my case, I was a quarterback, a running back, an inside linebacker, and an outside linebacker. The only thing I was ever going to be good at was inside linebacker. I mean, elite at.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the measurables for the rest of it, right? I wasn't fast enough to be the outside backer, and I wasn't going to be a running back.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to be, very realistic.
Yeah.
One, and opportunistic. As soon as you see an opportunity to get on the field and you're not on the field yet, take the opportunity.
Yeah. I think it was kind of opposite for me because coming into it, like before I even started playing padded football, I was like, I want to play wide out, nothing else.
Yep.
I didn't have a desire to play quarterback.
I only ever want to play linebacker.
Or be a running back, or even play defense. Because all I would watch, I'd watch Derek Mason and Jerry Rice and all those guys when I was younger. And then obviously when I started playing, they were like, yeah, like you got speed,
Yeah.
you can catch, you're playing receiver.
Yep.
I played some DB, thought it was fun, but I like to tackle.
Right.
So.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I committed to it. I could have probably played some other positions, but for some guys, I mean, you might know what you want to play, and you're fit for that.
Right.
It's different if you want to play that, but you're better suited for safety or linebacker. And I say that too because there's a lot of guys that play wide out, and it's like, man, like you could be a great corner. You're 6'1", rangy, break well, athletic.
You just don't have great hands.
Yeah, but like that, college coaches are looking for 6'1", 6'2" DBs.
Absolutely.
Same like even with basketball guys. I know you're probably not watching, but like there's basketball guys out there that aren't, they're 6'3", playing 4 in high school, but in college you're gonna be a 2 or a 1. Go play DB.
No, that's a perfect example. I think that's actually the best example because what might have made you dominant in high school might be totally neutralized in college, right? Like for example, if you're big, right, you've got an advantage in high school. When you get to the next level, everybody's big. So but it's a shame. We've had really good players that have come through Ravenwood who were more talented, more productive than a lot of other players, but were 5'10" or 5'9", and still got chances to play at good schools, but maybe not the schools that they wanted, right? Yeah. Like I think of Garcia, and he was about the most effective player in the county for a couple of years. Yeah. And he got some offers, but he didn't get any like big time, like no Power 5 offers or anything like that because, well, I don't know how tall he is on paper, but he's about 5'9". Yeah. Right. But man, he was so effective. And Doug Flutie's super short and really effective. And Russell Wilson's not super tall, and then kid from Arizona. So there are all of these outliers. Mm-hmm. The problem is college coaches, for the most part, aren't taking shots on outliers. They're going with percentages.
Unless you're like that.
Outstanding. Yeah. And if you're outstanding, you don't need our advice. I mean, like you're already getting looked at by anybody. But for the vast majority of high school players who do go on to play college, they're not superstars, right? They're good and they're serviceable, and so that's what we're talking to here is the guys who, you have aspirations of playing higher level football, but maybe you're not getting your door beat down right now by big schools. So there are some things that you can do, and we got to talk about this transfer portal thing a little bit. Did we just talk about that?
Not kind of.
A little bit. Kind of. So let me do this first. I want to ask so that we have this all in one place. Give me they don't have to be in the right order, but give me sort of your top qualities for a receiver from a scout or recruiter's perspective. What are they?
At what level, or just
say for a college coach coming to watch a kid play high school football, right?
Just coming to a game,
or maybe even watching film. What does he want to see?
Yeah, he's probably watched some film on you already. So I think when he's coming to the game, he's wanting to see how you interact with your teammates, how's your demeanor before the game.
That's so big.
Are you goofing off? Are you focused? Are you yelling at your teammates? Are you standoffish? Are you, if something bad happens in the game, do you have bad body language? Just to kind of see who you are in the game. Because it's one thing to have all the intangibles I'll talk about, but it's another thing, like, do I want this guy a part of my program? Do I want him a part of my position group room? Is he going to be a cancer? Is he going to be someone that elevates the play? So outside of that, I think number one is, like, obviously, like, do you catch the ball? I mean, if you can't catch the ball, you can't play the position. But I think even deeper into that, it's, can you catch the ball in traffic while you're covered? Guys draped over you.
What's more important? Being able to make acrobatic catches and huge plays once in a while, or being consistent in catching every ball?
Consistent catching every ball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, actually?
I think so.
Yeah,
because
I think so too.
Because I think, if you're consistent catching the ball, like, you probably will make the acrobatic catches, right. Or you'll make the catches where, like, down, how you caught that.
I think that's also really important for receivers, especially. Yeah. So I played for Bill Parcells, and the most important thing to Bill was how much can I rely on you? Do I know what I'm getting? Because he knows the game plan, he knows the pieces, he wants them all. Imagine if you're playing chess and your pawn, you go to move him one space forward, and he won't go there, right? Or you put him there, and then when you look again, he's somewhere else. Yeah. Well, now all of a sudden your whole game plan is gone. So coaches very much want pieces that will do what they're expected to do.
And I learned that when I got to college, even at the D2 level. the one thing our head coach used to say, Coach Andy Fry at Center College, he'd always say, I'm looking to see if I can trust you first.
Yes, trust.
You could be the best wide in the room, which I thought I was my freshman year. I'm not going to lie, I thought I was the best guy in the room. But it was always, can I trust you to be on the field and to be at the right spot at the right time, to get the signal, to block the right guy, to make the catch, to not fumble a punt. So for me to earn that, I was like, all right, let me do special teams. Let me go be the punt returner because no one wanted to do it. So I'll do it. And from that point, I started to gain the trust of head coach, then the OC, then my position coach, and then you start every now you get some reps. And all right, he can do it, and then the opportunities come. You make the most of it, and then you're on your way. But I think from there, it's back to the qualities, consistently catching the football. Then I think it's, I'd probably say just route running in general. Short to intermediate, you get in and out of cuts.
Separation.
And then even from that, like you mentioned before, what are you doing with a 5-yard hitch? Right. What are you doing with a 3-step slant? What are you doing with a now screen? Are you taking an 80? Are you getting the first down? Are you getting tackled where you catch it?
Right.
What's the dynamic? Are you dynamic with the football in your hands? So I think almost like, and I feel like one thing that when I watch a lot of, guys on Instagram that are training or doing stuff like that, they work a lot of route running releases, which is good. But I think there's something about like knowing what to do with the football once you catch it, which is like something I don't think you can actually train. It just comes with experience and practice habits, I think, and even training habits. Like,
well, you sure can't get good at yak if you don't catch the ball.
Yeah, but I think a lot of guys, and even some of the guys I train, and I try to get them to start like this one. I catch the ball and burst upfield at least 5-10 yards.
Yes.
Because I remember even when I was playing in high school, like catch the ball in practice and you kind of just catch it, like, oh, it's caught now. Let me just kind of meander to where I think I'm going to go in the game. Then the game comes, you catch a ball and you're like, oh, snap, I caught it. Oh, snap, I should take off. So it's like that split second of like not having that.
I think
not having that reaction is I think that's the difference.
That's a huge difference. So like that reminds me,
like expecting to
Ed Reed.
Yeah,
I know I always go back to him, but Ed Reed always picked the ball off with the mindset I'm scoring.
Yeah,
there was never a time where Ed Reed caught the ball and looked surprised. Right, like he was already on his way to the end zone, and he had a plan of how he was going to get there. He knew which way he was going to go. He knew where he was going to pitch the ball if he wanted it. You have to expect success in order to be ready to be successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're surprised by a catch or if you're surprised by a tackler, chances are you're going to get tackled.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's funny, like you see guys, like they'll catch a ball and they'll actually like get tackled.
Yeah.
Like the guy will be coming and they'll kind of brace for it.
Kind of lean into
just
it.
lean into it and like, I'm going to get tackled.
You
Instead of, boom, let me make a miss or let me try to use my leverage to overpower him.
Absolutely.
Because I know he's going for my legs or whatever it may be.
I think one of the best things you can do on a hitch when you catch it, you don't have to see anybody, right? Because you know where everybody kind of is.
Yeah.
You catch that ball, and the first thing you got to do is fake one way or the other. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just give a little stab to the left and then go right. The guy that's coming to get you has already sold out.
He's already sold. Yep.
So if you make a tiny move right at the last second, you're going to get him. Yeah. But if you just catch the ball and brace, you're going to get hit hard. That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, so I think they're looking to see like the guys that are just naturally like they catch the ball and it's like, dang, he's going to the crib.
Yep.
He's making guys miss.
Yep.
And I think for most routes, if you make the first guy miss, I think that's enough for a coach to be like, all right, like he got 10 plus, 15 plus. Even if you don't score, like if you make the first guy miss.
If you can always make the first guy miss, you're super valuable.
Yeah. So I think if you train with that mentality, and sometimes you don't have guys, just imagine it, like catch the ball and like there's a guy, make a move.
Yep.
And the more you do it, and then you translate to when you get to practice.
Yep.
Instead of let me just take it easy or let me just make sure I catch it.
Yep.
Let me make sure.
Or to have no plan and just be surprised.
Yeah.
You surprise yourself.
Yeah.
I got the ball.
Yeah. Let me make sure I catch it one, and then let me make the first guy miss.
Yeah.
No matter what, like.
Yep. No, I agree. So there's a lot of what you said and a lot of what I was thinking about in terms of linebacker qualities kind of come down to the same thing, which to me is this idea that you need to be prepared, right? And being prepared isn't knowing your plays only, right? And it's not just knowing something about the other team. It's knowing for a receiver what you're going to do as soon as you get the ball, right? And the only way that's ever going to happen in a game at the speed and as naturally as it needs to be effective is if you literally practice it all the time. And you can't, people, you hear coaches say this all the time. you can't just turn it on
Yeah.
game day. And that's 100% true for 99% of people. I played with a couple of guys who are exceptions to that rule,
Yeah.
but I promise none of you are that guy. Okay, so and I'm talking about Albert Hainsworth or guys like that who we're talking about a whole different species of animal, not just a different kind of human being.
Yeah.
So 99.9% of guys are good because they practice good.
Yeah.
And when I think about when I was getting recruited, the one thing that stood out to me more than anything else that any of the coaches said, and it was actually the school that I ended up going to, was, Ryan, you guys were down 45-0, and you jumped over the offensive line to stop a quarterback sneak on the 1 yard line going in to score. They were gonna score, but you were still selling out 45-0. He goes, I can trust you. And we talked about that, right? We talked about, can I trust you to do your job? Can I trust you to catch the ball? Can I trust you to block the right guy? But I think maybe if I could only give one tip to a high school player, especially, well, any high school player, but especially a defensive high school player, is you've got to hustle. It's non-negotiable. It's just not. And I've talked to a couple of guys that are there now, and at Brevoort.
Yeah.
And I've had these conversations with some really great players. I mean, you've got some special athletes there.
Yeah.
But I watch film with them and I say, what are you doing on this play? Oh, well, the play was on the other side of the field. You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
You can't take a play off in high school football just because you're tired or just because you're probably not going to make the play. Because understand, you're being evaluated just as much on the plays you're not involved in as you are on the plays you are involved in.
Yeah.
And another point is, and I know that most guys don't think about this, college coaches are constantly thinking about this. They're watching, like you said, exactly what you're doing on the sideline. Are you sitting on the bench with your head down and not engaged in the game? Are you picking your teammates up? Are you blaming people? Do you have a short memory, right? That's huge. I mean, certain positions,
Defense.
you have to have a short memory. Like quarterbacks, for sure. Quarterbacks and cornerbacks
Yeah.
have to have the shortest memories.
Because you're going to get burnt.
You're going to get beat.
You're going to throw a pig.
No question.
Yeah.
And are you resilient? Can you bounce back from that immediately? Now, we say short memory is sort of like a euphemism or an aphorism for resiliency, right? We don't want to forget. We want to learn from it, move on, and do the next play. But man, I'm telling you, the difference between a kid who's playing at a high level in high school on the field and the kid who's playing at a high level on the field and is a great teammate, that shows through. That's every team's type of guy. You know what I mean? You say a lot of times you got to look for a school that has the right fit, and they're looking for players who have the right fit.
Yeah.
High character and hustle fit everybody.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if I can only give one, I mean, I could talk about the qualities of a linebacker. That's easy, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're tall, they're heavy, they're fast, they're strong, they're nimble, they're aggressive, they're smart. That's great.
I got a question for you about that.
Yep.
too.
Go ahead. Well, hold on.
Go ahead and finish
So
it.
what I'm saying is, there's not a lot you can do about your height, right? And there's not a lot you can do about your weight. You kind of have a natural sort of range of weight, right? I mean, but you're limited genetically. The one thing that you can really make a difference in, and which will actually pay dividends towards your physical output, right, is effort. And, I've played with a couple of guys that were the epitome of this kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I always come back to Kyle Vandenbosch. So I played with Kyle in Tennessee, and I've just never seen anything like it. Kyle was a good player at Nebraska. Then he goes on, he gets drafted by Arizona, and the world forgets about him, right? He tears his knee a couple times. I don't think he had any sacks in I don't know how many years in Arizona, 3-4 years. And then he comes to Tennessee. Well, one thing that everybody knew about Kyle was he busts his ass every play. Like, he's a hustle guy. But Kyle was not a freak athlete. We had Javon Curse on one side and Kyle on the other side. Well, Javon is a freak. He's the definition of a freak, right?
Yeah.
He's 6'4", he weighs 265 pounds, and runs as fast as Deion Sanders, right? Like, it's ridiculous. And Kyle is kind of a regular guy. I mean, not by NFL standards.
NFL, yeah.
He's a regular guy.
Yeah.
He's 6'3", 260, probably ran a 4.7, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. But Kyle outplayed Javon that year, hands down. It wasn't athleticism. It wasn't strength. It was just effort, only effort. But he became a master at effort to the extent that I think the first year I played with him, he had either 12 or 13 sacks. All but one came in the fourth quarter. So, that's the other thing people have to realize. People get weaker as the game goes on.
Yep.
The guys who don't have a huge advantage, which is why they rotate defensive linemen to keep them fresh, right? But a guy like Kyle Vandenbosch makes all his money in the fourth quarter when he just worn the other guy out completely.
Yep.
And he does. He wears him out completely.
Yeah.
So if I had one piece of advice, if you're in high school right now, and I can only tell you to do one thing, try your hardest at everything. Be the guy I'm never going to tell you to be a bad teammate. I'm never going to tell you to be obnoxious for the sake of being obnoxious. But when it comes to effort, be obnoxious. Seriously, be obnoxious. It will get everybody's attention, right? It might be negative attention from the players because they don't want to have to deal with it.
Yep.
But it'll be only positive attention from your coaches and from college coaches.
Yeah. Like, who's that guy?
Right. What is that guy? Does he always do that? Yeah, coach. He only has one speed, full speed. Man, I need to watch that guy a little more.
Yeah, my more specific question, we were talking about backers and just kind of qualities. And you can give me the short version.
Yeah.
But I'm noticing now, since teams are passing a lot more, that like the outside backer position is almost like a
Safety.
kind of like, but it's offense. It's like a running back that can almost play receiver.
Yeah.
And like the backer is like a linebacker that can play inside the box and outside the
Yeah,
box.
it's. I mean, to me, it's a little bit like what they've done with tight ends.
Yeah,
right?
so
like H-back.
so the question is, do you think that has anything does that affect how I guess coaches are recruiting
I think so.
backers?
Yeah, I think.
As far as like size,
Yep.
and speed.
I think coaches will always take the bigger, faster player.
Yeah.
All things equal, right? They just will. But yeah, I think that college coaches, when they're looking for the type of player that they want, they just look up at the NFL and they look at who's successful. And I think right now the prototype linebacker in terms of production, effort, everything really is Fred Warner. I think everyone kind of says so. Fred Warner is 6'3". I don't think he weighs 230. He's probably 225. So this is a kid who could have been a safety, right? Probably runs in the high 4.5, maybe low 4.6s. He's not a freak by any means, but he's so smart and he wastes no steps and he hustles everywhere. I don't know if you saw the play just recently where so it's a screen. He comes from his inside backer spot all the way across the field, just runs by half the defense, right? Launches himself over someone who was on the ground and knocks the running back down. It was a big hit. But that's what he does. He's sideline to sideline. He can make every single play. He's a 4.6 guy, right? There are linebackers that are 4.4 guys that aren't anywhere near as effective as him.
Yeah.
He wastes no steps. He knows exactly what the offense is going to do when they're going to do it because he studies like crazy. But I do think, to your point, 6'3", 230 pounds, that's what they're looking for, right? Because that's who's most successful right now. So they got to back into that number because a high school kid's not going to be fully grown, right?
Yeah.
So what they're probably looking for now as both inside and outside backers, depending on the scheme, but the way the NFL is going and the way college football is going, it makes sense to have slightly lighter, faster guys, right? So I think what a lot of teams are looking for from linebackers now is guys who have safety coverage skills with linebacker mentality. And of course, requisite size, right? So
Yeah, it's interesting.
yep, and I think when it comes to speed, and I know it's overplayed, right? Like your 40 time is so important when it comes to getting noticed and drafted even.
Yeah.
It's so not important once you're playing.
Yeah.
So if you're not a fast 40 guy, whether you are or not, you owe it to yourself to learn how to play fast.
Yeah.
And the way you play fast is preparation and hustle, and that's it. There's nothing else to think about.
Because 4-4 in the fourth quarter is really what 4-6.
Probably. And
Yeah.
you know what else? 4.4 and a false step is like a 4.7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a guy who's
So I think people forget like the 40 time, like we're talking about hundreds of seconds.
Yeah.
Which on numbers, like it's a lot, but when you look on the field, like
it doesn't equate.
it does, but like
It does, but Ray Lewis. Okay, Ray Lewis got to the ball faster than anybody.
Yeah.
He ran like a 4.5 something, but he was beating guys that ran 4.3s because there was never a doubt where he was going, and he always hustled. That was the thing. So people always talked about how fast Ray Lewis was. He wasn't that fast. I mean, pretty fast, but not that fast. But he got to the ball faster than anybody.
Yeah.
But if you watch his feet on any play, he never false steps.
Yeah.
It's just boom, boom, boom.
I think that's like same thing we think about like
Receivers,
wideout, like
yeah.
Jarvis Landry, 4.7, but
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice. Made
Now,
those plays.
let's be clear. Everyone wants to say Jerry Rice ran a 4.7 or a 4.7. He ran a 4.48 or something. But the point was he was not a burner.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting.
Yep. So, Luke,
Yep.
let's get your perspective. Sorry. Nighthawk, let's get your perspective. Well, I mean, how do you feel about everything we just said? Do you think, are we being a little too idealistic by saying that you should be a hustler and prepare well and be a good student? Is that just all lip service that coaches say, or do you think that's true?
No, I think that's true. I think that's true, but I think the biggest thing is you got to get rid of your ego and be really realistic about where you can go play. Because the sad truth is most guys are not going to go play SEC, Big Ten football. That's
Yeah.
just like
Exactly.
an FCS school is a great place to go play. Division.
And to your point too, like when I first year I got to training camp in college, I was asking the guys around. I was like, what you do? Like, where'd you go to high school? Like, what y'all do? It's like state champions,
Yep.
region players, all district players. I was the MVP for this game, or I was the all-star, or I was this at the D3 level. I'm like, dang, all right, these dudes can play.
Yeah.
So like that's talking about D1 or where you went. Like those guys were all
Very
same thing.
very often the D2 player was the more accomplished high school player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not a big drop off from skill.
Skill
if
positions.
If you're gonna play at the big, massive schools, it's just. You got to be good, but you also
gotta
got
have
to be there genetically.
It's also
medically.
position specific, right?
Yeah.
Like the difference between D1 and D2 is really more in the line,
Yeah,
right? The skill positions are pretty
yeah.
close.
But I think hustling and all. That's great advice. Look at Brian Rice.
Yeah.
Skill wise, one of the best players on our defense who had 5 guys go play Power 5 SEC.
Yeah.
Big Ten,
Big
SEC
time ball,
football, ACC.
Mhm.
Brian Rice was one of the best on the team.
Yep.
But he wasn't there measurably.
Nope.
But he had a D1 offer, a couple D1 offers. Now he's playing Division 2 and doing very.
He was the
well.
most effective defensive player in the county for at least a year, maybe two. But like you said, he was 6'2"-ish, 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah.
Not super fast, but holy cow! The kid had 25 sacks in 1 year.
Now he's like all conference
Yeah.
for school and.
Yeah. There is.
And if you want to play at the next level, they'll find you.
And
Yep.
there's nothing short of that guy hustled more than anybody on our team, and that was never a question.
Yep. No, I think as a coach also, they look at those guys and they say, not only is he going to make himself better, he's going to make everyone around him better. That's important. Like one thing I noticed early in the season with Ravenwood is that there didn't seem to be that personality on the team that was making everybody else better. Do you know what I mean? There was a bunch of really talented guys that were sort of disparately doing what they were doing, but I didn't see anyone raise their play because of this guy. You know what I mean? Then as the season went on, some leaders started to emerge, and then they started really playing well, right? Of course, some things happen, injuries, whatever. But I love watching them play the last few games. I hated watching them play the first few. It made me sick, quite honestly. Guys like, I'm going to say it and I'm going to cut it out, but like Drake, to me, is maybe the most talented kid on the team other than Chris. Sure. And he should have been dominating every game.
For sure.
He's just recently starting to do some of that, right? But I think the biggest problem is he wasn't prepared. From stories I hear, oftentimes he doesn't know the defensive call, right? And if he does know it, he's not even sure where he's supposed to go. It's Landon that's getting everybody lined up. Yeah. Drake's the star. So I think it's really important, especially as a linebacker, you've got to be a leader. You have to be, right? Because you're right there in the middle of the defense. If you're not a leader, who else is going to lead the defense? Yeah. So, going back to the qualities of a linebacker, certainly the hustle thing, but you've got to know everything, right? It's not good enough to know your position. You've got to be able to get guys lined up. The best thing I ever see, the thing that makes me feel the best when I'm watching my players play at the next level, like I watched Junior on Saturday, when he runs up to the line of scrimmage and bumps his D lineman over because they're not in the right place, and then gets back and gets set. I don't care if he makes the play. I'm so freaking proud of him because that little move he just did fixed everything.
Yep.
If that guy had stayed there, now the whole defense is going to be off, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really important to understand. You got to be a coach on the field in a sense.
Yeah, and even it goes for wideouts too. I think a lot of guys, they get caught up in what do I have to do on this play? Yeah. What's my route? What's my role? Instead of what's the concept? What's where's the play? Why is he calling this play? Where's the hole in the defense? Maybe this route is for me to clear out for somebody else.
Yep.
I need to get to this spot at the right time so that the play works, and not so much that I want the ball.
And then you get the title of smart player, right?
Yeah. Because then like, I mean, even from my experience playing and then even coaching now, like, I'll take a guy that knows Z.
Because you trust him.
Why? Because then if I know I can move him around, it doesn't matter because he's gonna know what to do and know why we're doing it.
Yep.
I think the simplest way to say what you guys are saying is, if you want to get recruited, if you want to go play a different level of control, you can control.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't control your height, your weight, all the measurables and all that.
Very well
But
said.
You can control the way that you play. You can control the way that you prepare. You can control your, whether or not you're a good teammate, you're a good leader.
Yeah.
I'll say this: if I had to wrap up everything,
mic drop.
if I had to sum it all up, right? Which, if you had been sitting right here, I would just drop the mic and walk away. But I'm going to say what you just said in a slightly different way. When I was a sophomore in college, I led Duke in tackles my freshman year, despite playing maybe half the games. It wasn't a good team. Okay. But I started to get the sense that, hey, I'm pretty damn good. I must be, because I led the team in tackles. So I got a new position coach my sophomore year. and he introduces himself, and first time I meet him, he come on in here, let's watch film. So I go and I sat in his office, and he puts on film, and he goes, man, you're a superstar, huh? And I was like, oh, well, I don't know. And he's like, you missed 33 tackles last year. I said, what? He goes, you missed 33 tackles last year. And I said, okay. And then we watched every single one. He had them all queued up.
That'll humble you.
And, oh, no question. And then he humbled me further. Every time I had a good game, he got mad at me. On purpose. Like, he knew the worst thing that could happen to me is for my head to get big.
Yeah.
Right? And I heard Jim Harbaugh say this about Junior the other day. He said the best thing Junior has going for him is Junior doesn't know how good he is. Mm-hmm. That's so important. And I think the biggest problem, what I was talking about with the leadership and effort in Ravenwood, it's a matter of pride. The guys take pride in not trying hard. I don't know where this comes from. But a lot of guys think it's not cool to be the guy that sprints out onto the stretch line or that rah-rahs or anything, right?
Yeah. Trying to be cool.
Trying to be cool.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I guarantee you, nobody thinks you're cool, right? If you're the guy that's like, and not a teammate, that's not cool. I promise you, everyone in the stands, coaches, scouts, anybody, they're looking at the guy who's picking guys up, who's doing the hard stuff like, we're down 40, and he's still going around trying to cheer everybody up, and he's still playing his hardest. You've got to this is what I tell kids when they ask me, what do I need to do? Don't give yourself a choice when it comes to effort. There is no option. Yeah. It's not like I'm going to go hard this play or I'm going to go hard today, but I'm going to take off tomorrow. If you just have it in your mind that you're always going to go as hard as you can within the context of what's going on, which also includes film study, which also includes knowing your plays, which also includes encouraging your teammates, right? Mm-hmm. All of it. Just don't give yourself the choice to do anything but your best, because how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So, closing thoughts?
That's it.
Okay. Nighthawk? We didn't get to talk much about La Portal, but
do it next time.
We'll do that next time. We good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's another episode of Ruben and Ryan. I'm Ryan.
I'm Ruben.
And we are out.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that was good.